Hey, this is Ryan of Happy Healthy Vegan. A big shout out to my wife and channel partner Angie for finding this Joe Rogan video that slipped through the cracks from like 2 odd months ago. Peter didn't forward it to me, I didn't find it, so thanks Angie for pointing this one out. Vegan is a PSYOPs. If you're new to our channel, you might not be aware that Joe Rogan has been one of the strongest, most vocal anti-vegans for who knows how long, 5-6 years. I've been consistently responding to his misinformation, his bro science, his non-evidence-based information about vegan diets, veganism, the whole thing. And here we are almost at 2025 and nothing's changed, and here I am still responding to his nonsense. So on this episode of Joe Rogan's podcast, he has another anti-vegan who I've responded to here, Max Lugavere. So put the two of them together and boy, you're gonna have some shit talk about veganism. So anyway, let's jump right in.
You know, I don't think you should live off salad. And everybody that I know that tries to eat only vegetables winds up feeling like shit. And there's only a few exceptions to that.
Well, thanks for letting me know, Joe. I'm one of the good vegans. I'm one of the lucky ones who doesn't feel like crap. I mean, where do you get this from? All the ones you know, all the people you know that you just plans feel like crap. I mean, maybe that just speaks something about the people that you hang out with. I literally know hundreds of vegans and we feel good. Some of us are super athletic. Some are bodybuilders. Some play basketball like I do. Others are just busy moms and dads doing their thing. Like, where do you get this from that vegans are supposed to feel like crap? That's not normal. That's not right, Joe. Misinformation bullshit.
And again, there's no one-size-fits-all diet.
Well, all that might be fan and dandy perhaps, Joe, but veganism is not a diet. There's no such thing as a vegan diet. Firstly, veganism is a stance against animal cruelty and exploitation. Secondly, there's nearly an infinite amount of ways you can eat plants. You can't lump vegan diets all under one umbrella. Say you just chug beer and throw down Oreos all day. That's a vegan diet. There's no animal cruelty and exploitation. It's a vegan diet. Is it healthy? Would I recommend that? No, but it is a fact that health organizations from around the world have reviewed the scientific literature about plant-based diets and their healthful effects, and there's a scientific consensus that a well-planned, balanced, all-plant diet is nutritionally adequate for all people. So is there a one-size-fits-all diet like Joe's saying? I don't know, but we do know for a fact that if you're eating a balanced, healthy vegan diet, it's not going to F you up like Joe's saying here.
But the people that I know that have gone into a vegan diet, almost all of them get bad blood work.
I'm just completely skeptical of his claim here. Like, really, in Joe's inner circle, he really hangs out with a bunch of vegans and plant-based eating people? I highly doubt it. Even if he did have those people in his inner circle, they're really getting their blood tested and sharing it with Joe? I highly doubt it. But the fact of the matter remains that Joe has never once, as far as I can tell, and I tell you, I've been doing videos about this guy for quite a long time, I've never seen him once release a blood lab. But the fact of the matter is, there's a ton of blood labs you can find from vegans here on YouTube. I know a bunch of content creators that have been releasing their blood labs for years, myself included. I've been releasing mine since before our channel started in 2013. The entire time I've been vegan, every 24-ish months I've been getting blood labs and sharing them with the world so you can see that I'm not deficient, I'm doing fine, getting all my nutrients just fine, unlike what Joe's saying here. And I would love to see Joe's blood labs and compare them to mine, and that'd be a great comparison because we're pretty much the same age, born the same year, just like 10 days apart. I would love to see Joe's blood labs versus this supposedly sick deficient vegan's blood labs, and they're not. And I'll put a link here if you're new to the channel. If you've never seen my blood labs, I have a playlist. Watch them and learn.
Oh, yeah. And they try to figure out what's wrong, and then many of them try to supplement.
All right, so this is crazy. So Joe's saying that vegans get so deficient and sick from our horrible diets that we have to take a bunch of supplements in order to try to correct them. Well, this is rich because it wasn't a few years back that I made this video about Joe's crazy amount of supplements that he takes.
I take vitamin supplements every day. I take multivitamins, I take probiotics.
Oh, really? So even a person who says he eats lots of meat and vegetables still feels the need to take a multivitamin. I'm not like saying he's a hypocrite or anything like that, but I sort of am, because they were just saying that vegans can't get all the nutrients they require from their diet, so they're forced to take supplements. But it looks like meat eaters need to take supplements too. But let's cut Joe some slack here. At least he doesn't have to supplement with vitamins B12 and D like us vegans have to.
Take vitamin B12 and D and a lot of different things.
I mean, how does this guy get off saying such crap? Like, oh, you vegans are deficient, have to take all these supplements, yet I take even more supplements than you guys probably do. I mean, what kind of world are we living in when this guy's like the most watched podcast in the world? Anyway, let's come back to the present here and hear some more of his wisdom about deficient vegans.
And then one day they'll have a piece of salmon and feel like their body just returned on. Then they go, oh, okay, I got to stop doing this.
So how conveniently selective of Joe to intentionally choose to watch these why I'm no longer vegan videos and believe them, despite all the many response videos I've made showing what they're saying typically has a lot of problems with it. It's not the fault of their vegan diet that caused them to have these health issues. There's other reasons, typically like eating a bunch of raw food for a long time, intentionally starving themselves for long periods of time, long fasts, stuff like that. Yet he's so selective, watching that, believing that, and doesn't watch reasonable evidence-based vegans like myself who have been vegan now I've been vegan for over 14, almost 14 and a half years, who are thriving and not having any of these problems. But yeah, believe these grifter types and conveniently ignore people like myself who happen to be doing just fine.
I hear that all the time. Yeah, veganism is a PSYOP to me. It's
an ideology. It's an ideology just like any other cult.
Oh, really? So having and acting upon the belief that animal cruelty and exploitation are wrong, that's somehow a cult? That makes no effing sense, you moron.
And once you become a part of that, you lose all objectivity.
I mean, that's rich, coming for a guy who's clamoring for objectivity and truth, who himself has never released any blood labs to offer any truth or objectivity. A person who spouts non-evidence-based bullcrap all the time to his millions and billions of listeners instead of following evidence-based information. Oh, but no, vegans, we're deficient, we're a cult, and we've lost touch with objective truth.
And you're no longer willing to talk about these things in a rational way. You're defending your religion.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe, again, you're being very selective. You're obviously not watching our channel and many others who speak about plant-based diets and veganism in a very objective manner. It's not a religion, again, to believe that animal cruelty and exploitation are wrong. And it's not a religion to show position statements of health organizations who have reviewed the scientific literature and concluded that well-planned vegan diets are nutritionally adequate. If you think I'm full of shit, Joe, or anyone, please forward me any health organization who has made a position statement that vegan diets are not nutritionally adequate and you'll get sick and deficient and all these horrible things are going to happen. Again, I repeat, health organizations, not the position of some influencer on TikTok or some kid at the gym or even a lone maverick doctor. Organizations of health professionals. Let me see.
The vast majority of saturated, like if you were just to accept that saturated fat is the worst dietary nutrient one might ingest.
By the way, that's a PSYOP.
Yeah.
Literally from the sugar company.
So that's Joe's guest, Max Lugavere, piping up now about how saturated fat's been demonized. It's actually not that bad. It's actually good for you. And Joe's throwing out the conspiracy theory, again, talking about lack of objectivity, that this bad rap that saturated fat has gotten is due to the sugar industry. Again, show us evidence for that. But anyway, why on God's earth is anyone getting nutrition information from these two morons? They're not health professionals. They've never gone to med school. They've never treated patients. They've never conducted or peer-reviewed any studies or anything like that. Instead of listening to these two fools, or listening to myself for that matter, let's listen to, say, Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health and see what they say about saturated fat. And spoiler alert, the title of this article reviewing the most recent studies, consuming high amounts of saturated fats linked to increased heart disease risk.
Because saturated fat isn't a fat. Like, are we talking about saturated fat in dairy? Because that seems to have no negative cardiovascular impact, right?
So Max is spouting the bro science nonsense floating around out there that saturated fat found in dairy is okay. It's not linked to cardiovascular disease risk. Well, this study that I'm referring to here from Harvard says exactly the opposite. This article starts off by saying consuming high amounts of 4 major saturated fatty acids found in red meat, dairy fat, butter, lard, and palm oil, all of them may increase risk of coronary heart disease. Sorry, Max, your dairy saturated fat does not get a free pass here.
But 3% comes from red meat, excluding mixed dishes. The vast majority of saturated fat that your average American ingests comes from desserts, comes from mixed dishes like pizza, lasagna.
Not a problem at all, Max. The article's authors say replacing sources of saturated fat in our diets with unsaturated fats is one of the easiest ways to reduce our risk of heart disease. And by the way, that quote I just read you there comes from Professor Walter Willett of Harvard. He's one of the most esteemed and published researchers in the field of nutrition. You could look at the list of his publications and bibliography here. And again, who are you going to believe? Someone who's an expert in the field, or some guy with zero formal training and education in this field and self-proclaims himself as a genius? And sadly, this is the state of nutrition information these days. Instead of getting information from actual experts trained in the field, people listen to guys like Joe and Max because they're charismatic and they're celebrities. They talk like they know what they're talking about, yet they actually don't. Most of the information you hear from these guys contradicts the scientific consensus. Again, who do you want to believe? These guys are trying to sell you books and podcasts, or people who are just academics politely, silently going about their business of research and publishing their findings. That's way less sexy, but unfortunately, the world we live in doesn't reward people like that. It's all about being charismatic influencer. I think the title of Joe's video about veganism being a PSYOP is completely ironic. First of all, he never talked about veganism, a stance against animal cruelty. He's talking about a vegan diet, but that's not the PSYOP. The PSYOP is these guys. These guys just spout misinformation like it's truth and ignoring actual science. No, Joe Rogan and Max, you guys are the PSYOP, and it's just so ironic that you guys are just projecting onto veganism and vegans what you guys really are. So anyway, guys, leave your questions and comments down below. Let me know what you think about veganism being a PSYOP, or religion and cult. We're all these things. Veganism, a PSYOP, religion, and cult. I mean, how many weird things can we be? Again, we're just peaceful people, not killing animals and eating plants instead. I mean, so if you thought everything I said here is complete crap, well, Joe Rogan and Max are prophets of truth, please come to my Friday live streams, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Just be civil and we can try to have a little discussion. So until then, guys, I'll see you Friday. Remember, it doesn't suck being vegan.